Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you to Sean for his introduction. Assuming I've edited things right, he should be he should be appearing before I started talking. This is Tales of the Sale, episode 25, and we're back here in February. We've made some ill-advised New Year's resolutions in the last episode, and we are busily at work on our own tournament of our very own, which we'll be talking about shortly. But before we get to that, I'm going to introduce the panel of regulars this evening. We have Glenn, the gentleman farmer Van Meter.
Hello, everyone.
We have Tyler, late dinner Stone.
Hey, everybody.
And I am Tom, Chairborne Mullane. And we've had guests, right, for the last like 3 or 4 episodes. We've dragged poor Mike Tunez all over the place. I think I'm right in that.
Yeah, he was on 2 in a row, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think their supplement is out now, right? There's a digital version of it, or is it available for pre-order? Because I know that they had some issues with the
PDF.
run.
The PDF version is out.
Okay.
If you purchase it, you can download it. If you pre-ordered it, you should have it in your email already. Fire on the Frontier books are coming in from the printers, I think. They've gotten all of the pages were offset is what happened, in case people hadn't been following on the Facebook. It printed, like, they got an extra blank in there somewhere. So page 1 was where page 2 should be. So all the pretty, like, centerfold art was all offset by a page. They have gotten that resolved and should be coming back.
Well, also, happy Chinese New Year to you. It is the year of the tiger, I believe.
Yes.
So now that that's out of the way, production resumes, I presume, on a number of different Kickstarters and all sorts of other stuff, both in this game system and on many others that are being produced overseas. So we'll keep you guys updated as soon as we get information. But I think we'll wait to have poor Mike on until he has some good news to drop on us. So in the meantime, we're going to talk about what we've been keeping ourselves busy with as the year has begun. And we can start with Tyler. Tyler, what have you been up to for the month of January?
I have been painting all of my oak and iron sails in the paint nights. I put them off, and now I have bags of them, and I'm just doing them assembly line, but there are so many of them.
And you were whining about, because we told you to just use contrast paints for the ships. And I remember you like crying bitter tears about this because you felt that we had steered you wrong.
Yeah. They were a learning curve. And the new Army Painter paints have come out. They should be out by the end of this month. Their speed paint line. I don't have any connections with Army Painter other than that's just what I use to paint my stuff. But I think I was looking on their site and the pre-order is up and they should be out sometime this month. But it's Games Workshop Contrast. It's all over the place on YouTube with all the painting channels. If you're interested in seeing what that looks like, other than the fact that it costs half as much as Games Workshop, it does have some different properties. It kind of does what Contrast claimed to do better. It leaves Contrast as more of a technical paint, which in experimenting, Contrast is amazing for a technical paint.
I will say that, like, you can create your own. Like, obviously, like there are tutorials online for creating contrasts that will make you far cheaper than $6 a pot, which is, I think, what they're charging if you're buying the GW paints.
Oh, Lord, it's 8 where I am.
Is
yeah,
8?
It's 8.
It's like $760 or something.
Oof. Like, that hurts.
Yeah.
I could feel my wallet getting lighter. So like I already bought most of these colors, and I lucked out because, well, I guess lucked out is a relative term, but the last time I stocked up on these, it was when a local game store here was going out of business, and it then reopened under a new name, which I have to imagine is a fantastic tax dodge. So I'm not going to tell you which store that is because I don't want to rat them out. Because if they manage to escape, then good for you guys. But I got 50% off of those contrast paints, so I was like, $4, what a bargain. So I guess I just mentally didn't check in my head how much it would have been if I'd paid, normal person prices. But like in the quest to gussy up my coastal fortifications, which are done. I'll post pictures of those like tomorrow, by the way. But in an effort to get those done, I had to make a lot of wash, like black wash, brown wash,
Mhm.
and I followed a recipe on I think it's Black Magic Craft that's taking the recipe from like Lev's Magic Wash, which I think there's a lot of gamers on here who've made that themselves, and it employs a mix of ink, flow regulator, acrylic medium, like matte medium, and
Yep.
and then you have like a bunch of like dishwashing, like something to for like the vapor or whatever. So I used like jet dry. Um, so like you mix it in certain um, proportions, and you get this really amazing wash. It worked out beautifully. I made myself like a quart of it, and I've been using it on all sorts of terrain because when I build terrain, I tend to make a lot of it. So like I know it can be slow going at times, but um, when I produce terrain, I produce a lot of terrain at once. So I'm glad I found a good recipe, and I might try to do that for some of these contrasts to see what kind of thing I get, what kind of result I get, mixing acrylics
The
and making my own.
Yeah, the contrast medium and scale 75 has been one that I've seen people doing a lot with. You can also use just any high pigment paint. You just need something that's like good quality paint. So I know scale 75 is known for packing their colors in Games Workshop, obviously, but you're going to pay more for it.
Right.
And if you're going to buy Games Workshop, you may as well just buy the contrast paint. Other than dealing with contrast paint, if anyone has been on the Discord, there's been a lot of like kind of back and forth, almost doom and gloom about the situation with Adepticon. Firelock announced that they're not going to be attending. They have their reasons, and then the Iron Man, because that was something that was being run by No Dice No Glory, which is obviously who you're listening to. We weren't sure if we were going to have Firelock's support for that, if we were going to be attending at all to do that. I can say right now, it looks like the Iron Man is a green light. I am going to Adepticon. I will be buying my flight probably by the time this airs. So if the stupid Iron Man doesn't fire and you just want to play 3 games of Blood and Plunder against somebody, I will do my best impression of Glenn and Tom plus myself, and you can play against us. But yeah, I've been working on trying to figure out how we're going to get this Adepticon tournament to fire, and I've been trying to help out making this April tournament go, because we know that's going to happen. That's our baby.
I will also point out that I think when in talking to Mitch about like Adepticon, I think he had spoken to somebody at Adepticon, and they were interested in having him kind of run a bunch of different historicals, or kind of help supervise just historical war games in general. And Mitch was like open to that. He wanted help with it, and I told him that I could do that, but it would have to be next year, because my issue is like the irony here is like you guys will make fun of me for the time that I have off because I'm a teacher, but like that time off is it's specific. I don't get to like take it whenever I want. So people have this assumption that like I get to be off whenever, and I have a lot of sick days because teachers tend to get sick and teachers have kids get sick. And I've accrued quite a bit of sick days over the years because at this point I don't use a lot of them. So I actually have 178 available sick days.
An entire school year.
That is correct. But I'm not a. My wife makes fun of me. She calls me Captain America. I don't take sick days when I'm not sick. And so I have personal days that I can use, but there's only 5 a year, and I have to use them or I lose them. And I will have had, by the time this school year is over, 7 weddings to go to, or to literally perform, because I've this my sister's wedding is this weekend. As we record this, we're recording on the 2nd of February. And if I can edit this properly on Sunday night, it should release on Tuesday of the following week. So my sister's getting married on Saturday. I'm in the process of making a wedding cake for that, and I had to take my last personal day for that, obviously. So I'm sure if I had used my personal days for Adepticon, my sister would have flown there and stabbed me in the eye. So I'm glad Tyler's going next year for sure. But fight the good fight, my friend.
Doing my best.
Glenn, you have a lot of variety on this list of things on the show notes. Do you want to tell us what you've been up to?
It mostly consists of not having a regular sleep schedule. I'm really glad that we didn't plan major stuff this year, that I had to like have a daily routine to like even have a hope of achieving my resolutions, because I got slammed at work this month. I've been doing a lot of like, and Tom and Tyler can vouch, like I've been sending them crazy texts like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, like, hey guys, just leaving work.
Just leaving work.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment if he gets into work and leaves work on the same day. Like,
Yeah,
you need a union.
Yeah.
Tell them about your water boiling project, because
Oh God.
I enjoyed hearing about
This is
that.
great podcasting material. We had a problem with one of the pieces of equipment at work, and essentially we fill it up with a certain weight of liquid, and then when it heats up, somehow the liquid goes away while being in a closed system. But then when you cool it down, the liquid comes back, and then when you cool it down even more, liquid appears out of nowhere. So, and by liquid I mean weight. The weight changes, the weight fluctuates. I don't think any liquid's actually going anywhere, but we cannot determine what is going on. So I've been spending hours just sitting there waiting for a piece of machinery to bring a lot of water and change the temperature on it, which takes a while. It's literally watching.
When you sent us that message, it was like the same day that I had spent part of my time in the parking lot breaking up a fight between 2 parents that were trying to like basically sumo wrestle each other. And I remember after dealing with that and telling them, like, please stop setting such a terrible example for your kids, to which they responded with colorful language that I won't repeat on this podcast. I walked in, saw Glenn's message that I just spent several hours today watching water boil. And I thought to myself, you know what? My job ain't that bad. So Glenn, thank you for giving me hope.
Yeah,
it's been
we've
a
got the
dark
new
year.
baby.
And you have the new baby.
Yep. So that's like, I get home from some crazy shift and then I try to stay up even longer so that Corinne can get some sleep. But in between all of that, I have been working on getting models built, because painting isn't happening right now. So continue to try and start play testing for different eras of Blood and Plunder, which I don't know. I don't know if Mike's going to bring them under the official banner or not. I might just end up publishing them myself as like a unrelated thing, an unofficial.
No, I wouldn't sell yourself short. He was asking questions about it off air last time we were talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had other people that were interested in helping you out with those rules, because I think it'd be cool. I'd be curious to see how it works.
I think there's a lot of interest simmering in the background that isn't that isn't necessarily known. So yeah, that's been most of my month is that. So I am very excited. I just got a giant order from Perry in. So that's a lot more, including Royal Marines for the Napoleonic era. So I now have some very spiffy sailors. I know, not technically sailors. And then the friend of the show that shall not be named and I teamed up to do another order, and I'm getting my Blood and Valor Ottomans finally. So they'll be coming in, I guess, within a month or two, and I'll have my first B&V force that isn't from Phalanx.
And you have them coming in from Gripping Beast.
Yeah, I got the Woodbine miniatures Ottomans.
Yeah, they're pretty. Have fun with
Those
the
look
bayonets.
cool. I saw those. I saw those. Yeah.
Yeah, nice thick bayonets that won't snap. I hope.
Yeah. The
And I made
bayonet
sure-
stays right on the barrel. The barrel, on the other hand.
I got the basic starter set that has the HMG in it, but I also
Mhm.
ordered a trench catapult because I can't see not having one of those.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. But it's a lot of riflemen because I don't know if they have LMGs. So we'll see how it goes once I get them all painted up. Nice khaki army, shouldn't be too bad.
That's what you say now. We'll see how that goes.
Look,
You can
I
do the
painted
World War One
Soviets for
stuff with
flames,
spray
okay?
paint. Oh, sorry.
I painted Soviets for flames. I'm used to painting a khaki uniform.
All right. All right. I will say this. I know that Glenn's grand plan is to try to like trick me into doing Napoleonics, and I don't know. I feel like maybe that's like my gift to myself when I turn 40. Like I get a Napoleonic army. You know.
That was me and my friend's plan. Was we're not going to start Napoleonics till we're 40, and then lo
I
and
mean, I
behold,
turned 39 in April, so I'm getting
There-
close. But I will say this, just to give a shout out to my friend Shane, who has, he's an amazing painter, and he has 28 millimeter Napoleonics. He has French guys. I think he has a Russian army as well, but they're not painted, or the Russians aren't painted. But he has like a battalion painted for the French in 28 mil, and like they are like gorgeous. But whenever I asked him like how are they to paint, he has this like insane look in his eye, like he's like, you don't know what it was to paint those. You know, it's like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about painting those Napoleonics. And I was like, oh, okay, Shane. It's okay. It's gonna be okay.
see, I've always found uniforms easier to paint, even if they are detailed uniforms, just because you know you're doing the same thing on every guy.
I do feel like that Napoleonics as an era can bring out some real fascinating like rivet counters of a different caliber. Like there are some people who really dig in to like the historical nature of these uniforms and what epaulette colors they had and what kind of feathers they had in their cap. Um,
Oh yeah, I got
and
a source
yeah, you can
book.
go down quite a rabbit hole.
I got a source book for a different rule set, obviously, than the one I'm working on, and they were kind enough to do like it's for the Spanish campaign, the Peninsular campaign,
Yeah, yeah.
and they go in and it's like every unit in is listed with a color guide, and some of these have no changes between them, and others have minute changes where like just like the collar color changed between uniforms, but like some people really care.
And like
And I'm
if
not sure that I
if
will.
that's like one of the best pieces of advice that Sean ever gave on a podcast, which I thought was like, I don't make it a habit of judging other people's fun. And like I laugh at it because I laugh almost partially out of admiration and partially out of exasperation because I know that I would not have the kind of patience that somebody who's into that does. But at the same time, like I acknowledge that there are certain things where I get rivet countery. Like so I have somebody got me a poster as a gift that's like tanks of World War II. And I put the poster up and I kept looking at it and looking at it. And then this kid finally comes up behind me and he's like, "What are you looking at? You look like something's wrong." And I'm like, there are 4 things wrong on this poster. If you can figure out what they are, I'll buy you Dunkin' Donuts for a week. And the kid's like, oh my God. And kids just kept studying it all. And like, they had mislabeled, like they had like an M4, A4, A1, but it was not an A1. It was an A3. They had like, they mislabeled the Panzer III. They mislabeled, like, so like these are just like, those are my moments. So if I don't want people to judge me for being picky about tank stuff, then I can't fault somebody who's very concerned about the color of a collar. So if that's something that you really get a lot of enjoyment out of, then awesome. Because I have fun nitpicking the tanks. I like doing it. I
Yep.
don't know about you guys. Do you have a thing that you're nitpicky about more than others?
I like watching from outside the ring the fights over what color Feldgrau is supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, those are fun.
German gray tunics. Those are
Yeah.
amazing because it's like 4 different colors of thread all woven together. So it's like, what color is the sun today?
I love the one where it's for Team Yankee where it's like, what color is Soviet green? And they have the picture of all the tanks rusting away in a field where it's
Oh yeah,
every
yeah.
color.
It looks like a color wheel from an art class.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, although I will say
so-
one of my favorite memories, I dragged Corinne to Historicon once, and we were going through something where it was somebody was gaming one of the various Irish rebellions, and they had like British horsemen on the field, and the guy's like proudly talking about like this is this unit, and you can tell from the uniforms and all this stuff, and then there's the Irish rabble over there and whatnot. And Corinne's like sitting there staring at it for a minute, and he says something to her, and she's just like, "Oh, your horses are painted wrong."
Oh no.
And the poor guy's friend is like sitting there and immediately begins to egg Corinne on, be like, "Oh, they're wrong. What's wrong about them?"
I feel like Corinne did not hesitate to
No,
rise
she
to
did
that
not.
bait.
And eventually, I had to drag her away and be like, because she did not understand what just happened there, and I was just like, "This is
That's awesome.
this like you understand." Miniatures painters care a lot about the uniforms. We do not understand animals, so they get painted up to what looks nice. People don't understand that, like how socks and point. Maybe. Speaking of teaching materials, what have you been up to?
So you guys, we troll each other by putting things on the notes that I'm not going to read because I don't want to start problems. But I'm not teaching the thing that they said that I'm teaching. So the school's gaming club is still going strong. I've been trying to manage that. We've had 3 meetings. I'm averaging about 50 kids a session, and the kids come in. I have like 30 playing D&D, so I have 6 games being run by different DMs that I help train. I have Blood and Plunder set up, so I've been kind of running tutorials for kids. I ran it in my military history class. We kind of used that game to kind of close out the end of my military history course, which is done. And so as the semester changes, I started teaching a new course this week. I started teaching international relations, which starts in 1945 and it goes to the present. So their first simulation will be to try to iron out an agreement to deal with a number of problems that are occurring in Europe and Asia in like post-World War II. So I have all sorts of miniatures and stuff set up to war game some of that stuff. I have my second student teacher this year who's he's running my classes now until March. And then he changes over to the middle school and does the second half of his internship. He will be my 6th student teacher, which is a weird thing for me to say. As we record
Which is really
this,
hard on them.
no, it's a lot of work to train student teachers because the school, so colleges don't really give you any guidance at all. The only thing that colleges ask is that you let them teach your class.
I was going to ask, are you talking about as a student teacher trainer or as the student teacher?
Uh, as as the teacher. So like, as the cooperating teacher, my only job is to allow him to be in my classroom and run it for a certain stretch of time. In exchange for that service, they pay me $200 a week. You ask? False. That would be for 8 weeks. They pay you a total of $200. So I get to go and take my wife out to dinner. They don't check up on you at all. And this depends. It depends by college or whatever. But the colleges I'm working with, who shall remain nameless right now, they don't check in. Some of them hilariously say that they will check in weekly. This one included. I have heard zero from them. I've received zero emails. This poor kid just got dropped off. It's like being abandoned in an orphanage. So some teachers throw their student teachers to the wolves and basically just force them to take over on the first day. I do a lot of work, so I go over the kids' plans. I give them advice. We co-plan stuff for a little bit, and then once I'm comfortable that they know what they're doing, I let them kind of take over. So he's not quite there yet, but he's getting close. I suspect by next week I can kind of sit in the back, because I usually use the time to like plan all sorts of elaborate, complicated things. So like when I first used Blood and Plunder in my classroom, I planned out everything when I had a student teacher there to kind of, to give me time to do it. And the big thing I'm planning now, which I feel like Tyler would have had a blast doing this. Glenn would have just been yelling not to trust the government, and like he's right. But so there's a simulation we're doing at the end of the year. It's called Air One, and it's originally created by another teacher, but I'm taking it and then like putting it on steroids. And basically, the kids are going to role play as different government agencies. So some of them will be the NSA, some of them will be the Department of Defense, some of them will be, and like all these different agencies, International Atomic Energy Agency, and their job is to try to interview people from this fake country called Erewhon, which is obviously nowhere backwards. And the citizens of Erewhon, or the country of Erewhon, is suspected of having nuclear power and nuclear weapons. And you have to try to figure out if, in fact, they have either of those things. The citizens are given briefs. It's very much like mock trial. And it's all about learning to ask the right questions. And these kids are phenomenally bad at asking good questions. So we try to like walk them through the process of how to, like, what makes a good question, how do you craft one, how do you conduct these kind of interviews and stuff like that. And I basically am creating it so that there's 3 possible outcomes, represented by a red folder, purple folder, and a green folder. And in one outcome, there's nothing happening, but we see if they're so paranoid that they freak out and assume that there is. In another, they had nuclear power, but they buried the program, and if stuff is leaking, it's a problem. And the other one, they definitely have nuclear weapons, and they're ready to use them. So we leave them hints. There's also a scavenger hunt scattered around the school. So like I gave like the office secretary like a dead plant, and I told her if the kids come to talk to her, she's like, my whole garden is dead. I don't know what's happening. So like I got other people in on it, like the gym teachers are in on it, the science teachers are in on it, the math teachers are in on it. So it's this week-long scavenger hunt insanity that happens during my classes. So I'm building it. I even have a kid making fake newscasts. Like
what
yeah,
you're telling me
great.
is you unleashed a bunch of 17-year-olds into the population who are looking for WMDs.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Are they just breach and clearing classrooms?
No, they're given like puzzles to solve, and they have to do the interviews. The interviews are structured. But the other thing, and this is classic bureaucracy,
Who plays
the
Cheney?
agencies can't talk to each other. So if
Yes!
you're like,
I
exactly,
tell them the first rule of interagency cooperation is no interagencies talk to each other.
that is exactly right. So like the kids in the FBI can't talk to the CIA, and the kids in the CIA can't talk to the DEA. There's one coordinator, and that coordinator is the only one who gets to talk to everybody, but he can't talk to everybody at the same time. So this poor kid, whoever gets assigned this job, like usually winds up going insane because they're trying to get these people to stop being ridiculous. You'll have some of the agencies that think one thing, others think another. It's really a fascinating learning experience on a variety of levels. So I'm building that, and I'll be sure to tell people on this podcast who are curious how it goes,
Please
because it's
do.
probably going to run. It's probably going to run in May, and I have a number of teachers that are working with me on it. It's going to be pandemonium. I'm probably going to get in trouble because there's going to be kids like running through the halls with like fake schematics for a nuclear power plant. Like I've told the administrators what's happening, and I warned several of them. I'm like, you realize that like they're going to be kids like threatening nuclear weapons. They're going to be kids yelling at each other and accusing them of like concealing things in underground bunkers. And the assistant principal just looked me dead in the eyes and goes, I'm fine with that. It'll be exciting. And I was like, all right, I'll remember you said that when this rolls around.
When the police are called.
I apologize for the long digression here, but I'm building a display board for a wedding cake for my sister's wedding. I'll take pictures of it and post it when I have it done. It's not super fancy, but it's like a little snow scene with like trees and some powdered sugar for dust, and then it's a place for cupcakes, and there's a little trail leading to a cake in the middle. In terms of Blood and Plunder stuff, I succeeded in priming my entire Dutch starter box that I'm using to supplement my already painted Dutch starter box to make more Dutch people. And I also finished painting 2 packs of natives, and I'm almost done painting a bunch of casualties. I bought like 5 boxes. Excuse me. So those 5 boxes of dead people will be ready to display their deadness at the tournament in April. So I'm just gonna like leave bodies scattered around every time I lose people, because I think it looks cool that way.
Casualties is a weird way of referring to your force that you're putting out on the field, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the way it's gonna go.
True. Especially the militia don't know it yet, but
Yeah.
They don't, but they'll learn. They'll learn fast. They'll learn as fast as that crew of cannon people that Ben Hudler murdered in the only game I got to play in that tournament. That poor cannon crew. They had their whole lives ahead of them. Except they didn't.
for anyone who didn't catch that story, Tom put his cannon crew out at like the edge of the board, very far away, and on turn 1, his opponent managed to get a long range shot off that killed 2 guys. It caused the others to flee.
No, they were all dead. He killed them all.
I
None of
thought
them.
he
None of them
killed, like,
passed the
just enough
save.
to
No,
cause a
he
fatigue
killed
problem.
3, caused 2 fatigue, and then it routed the rest of the unit because there's only 4 of them. So long range
Wow.
shots needing 10s, and he got them. He picked them off. They should have hid behind a tree, but they didn't know any better. All right, so we're gonna talk about tournament planning in general, and then we're gonna talk about our tournament that we're planning for April. So I'm gonna let Glenn and Tyler take it away, because you guys have gotten the opportunity to plan far more events than I have. So we'll start with Tyler. Let's talk about, or actually, no, we'll talk with Glenn, because Glenn's the one who secured this particular space. So talk to us about what you want to do to get started if you're somebody who's trying to set up a tournament in your place of gaming.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really the start of it, right? You have a place that you game regularly. I have TO'd for probably 4 systems now. Because I'm one of the guys at my club that is pushing things and getting things going. And that's in addition to any of the No Dice, No Glory stuff I've done. So the key thing I would say is having a place that you game regularly and that is familiar with you, that you're on a good relationship with, right? So, obviously, I have my home store that I go to all the time. I was a weekly guy there. Got to know the event coordinator. I began setting up events for various game systems on weekends, running. There was a different system that we had where I would run a tournament or event for it every other month. We had a different system going on where we had stuff going on once a month. And with those, we were doing them on the regular, and we got into kind of a rotation. Everything was, just you contact them, say, hey, this is the day this month, usual schedule, whatever. And everything's good. But you do want to have that good relationship with the store that you're going to, and make sure that the store that you're going to can provide what you're looking for as well. If you're gaming at a hole in the wall place that has 2 tables, you're going to have more trouble running a tournament there just because of lack of space. So you want to make sure you've got enough space, you're in a good relationship with the owner or the managers or whomever's running it, depending on the size of the store. Having a easy accessible food place nearby is usually nice. I know a lot of places we go to, you can walk to food within 2 or 3 minutes because there's a store next door or a McDonald's in the parking lot or who knows what. Or you might want to, well, I guess that's planning further down, is like organizing food for people in the schedule. But as far as getting a space goes, again, can't emphasize having a good relationship with the store ahead of time. You can cold call a store and say, hey, me and my group play, and we'd like to run a tournament. But if they don't already run that system or they don't know who you are, it's going to be a lot harder to get going from the start. That kind of thing really only works well at conventions and that kind of stuff where everything's kind of a disorganized mess and everything's built on trust anyway. Tyler, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it with the store already being familiar with the system, but that was something that came up. We were trying to locate this tournament was where were we going to play? I have a space near me that we've been getting some traction there. It has a lot of table space. But the issue is the 2 things that it does not have. You don't quite have the number of players to form like a core community. If we hold a tournament where at your store we know how many people are potentially going to be there, we're going to have like at least 6 kind of a thing. If we run it where I'm at, we can have 20 something players, but we're not going to have that core guarantee of 6. We're going to have a core guarantee of like 3 until that gets up and moving. The other reason that we didn't choose the store where I am that's closer to me is they don't stock the product. So when you have a tournament like this on a weekend, you're asking a store to lock down all of their gaming tables, which Warhammer 40K, and you can play Blood and Plunder on a card table, so maybe their Magic events, in order to give you space in their store. What are they getting out of it, especially if they don't sell the game that you're running a tournament for? If you go into a shop and you're like, hey, I want to run a Blood and Plunder tournament, I'm going to bring 20 people in here and they're all going to be super excited to buy whatever Blood and Plunder you have in stock. Like, the store owner just sees dollar signs at that point. But if you're like, yeah, I'm bringing in this weird game system that you've never heard of and you can't get stock for, like, they don't care, man. Play that in your garage. They're not going to get anything out of that unless they charge a cover, and no one wants to have to charge a cover for a tournament.
And I think I mean, as we're talking about this, it sounds kind of mercenary, but a lot of local game stores are operating on slim margins.
They are.
We like having places to play, and I'm really happy these people provide it. So if there's an opportunity for us as gamers to create a situation where these people are going to get to have their business succeed, then that's awesome. So we found a good one. We found one that Glenn likes to play at and that carries the product, and we hope these guys do real well because we had a whole bunch of spots.
That's another thing. If you do regularly go to a game store, even if you don't regularly go to a game store, if you're just popping into a game store to see what they've got, buy something. Buy a candy bar, buy a soda, buy a pack of Magic cards or whatever system that you're interested in. Doesn't matter. if you can drop a couple dollars in their pocket for taking up their time, that's going to help them stick around. They may not end up being the place you go to, but I can tell you as a small business owner myself, like with the farm, any amount of cash coming in is super helpful to these guys.
One kind of thing that I saw that a gaming club did, which was kind of smart, was when they realized they had a lot of people kind of sitting around and they were having trouble with the amount of tables that were being taken. So they started to charge a cover. It's like $5, but the cover covered you the whole day, and also it went into your store account and it became store credit. So they kind of like mandated you spending $5 on a candy bar or a soda, and it
Yeah.
built up over time. So it was kind of like a little layaway program, because there was a point where I had gone enough times that I had like, $100 in there, and I could just use that to buy something cool. So like, there are ways for everybody to kind of win, and I want to see as many ways for that to happen. So if you have an opportunity to set up a tournament in a place where you know that a lot of people will have fun and you'll get a chance to help them sell some products, then definitely try to take that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, especially in the internet / post-pandemic world, a lot of stores are moving to that model where you put down $5 or $10 as a store credit.
Setting a packet, setting missions. So
We
I'll let
want to
Tyler
hit.
speak to this one. Yeah.
Did you skip signups and managing participants?
Oh yeah, I shouldn't have skipped that. Yeah, I'm bad at planning.
But Tyler, go.
Which one? Signups and managing participants?
Signups.
I was gonna let you do that one because I think you're the one who has the plan for the signups this time around.
Oh,
I will
we're
talk
talking
about this.
ours.
Yeah,
We're talking
anything
about
I
in
have
general.
run has been at conventions. So it's the convention model of you need to have a common space where people can send in an email and say that they want to participate. If you're trying to collect money, that gets trickier. I have run an event where we did that, but we ended up just kind of taking cash at the door. And I will be the first to tell you that some people didn't pay up and we just needed like warm bodies and seats. So we kind of handed them $5 in the parking lot, told them to come back in and hand us $5 at the register. And we let them play.
But I feel like $5 or $10 is not a huge barrier to entry, especially if players are briefed on it in advance. And usually that money all goes to prize support anyway.
Right, but there's also a way better way to handle signups and managing participants that you guys probably have more experience with.
I don't know, because I want to say that the I-95 and the NDNG guys that are kind of born from that group. I definitely remember handing a lot of $10 bills over at Cold Horse and things.
Right.
Typically it's something that the store collects, because you have somebody at the store who checks in and they have a registry to kind of keep track of who paid and who didn't. But we also need to know how many tables to set up. So I think the key to signups and managing participants is to kind of get the word out early. So if things go according to the plan we had before we started recording this evening, we should have an entire update on everything that's going to be out. You're going to be able to send us information to our Tales of the Sale at Gmail post box, and we will keep a running update on our Facebook page of who is signed up, and we'll try to get back to people that email us as soon as they can to just confirm. So I don't
That's
think
a good thing to touch on. I've seen a lot of, social media is a big thing, obviously. But I've seen a lot of places that do a tournament sign up or some kind of release information or that kind of stuff exclusively on Facebook. And that's not a great idea, because while we interact with many of you on Facebook, um, that isn't the entire community. I know out of my gaming club, a lot of guys work in network IT and security kind of stuff. Most of them aren't on Facebook, so I have to send out a lot of I have a separate as a guy who does stuff regularly. I have separate email lists that I use for different games, because some people aren't on Facebook. You need to be able to contact them via email, to let them know where to what's going on. And you also need to have, like Tom was saying, have that email address, have other methods than just Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media platform you prefer. You need to be cross spectrum to catch the most participants. And signups in the store should also be a good thing. Although that moves on to a different point of promotion and planning. But
Yeah, a lot of this one does kind of cross over with the promotion and planning.
So I'll talk about promotion planning, but talk about setting the missions first, Tyler, because I know that you've done a lot of kind of mission planning, and we
Yeah,
did some
with
thinking about what kind of missions
You
we
Who
want to
Shall
run.
Not Be Named.
That's 2.
Well, we didn't say it.
true. We didn't say that.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that. Yeah, so it does help if in advance you can send out a tournament packet. Firelock actually produced briefly like a skeleton of a tournament packet, and this is something that Mike has wanted to do for a while. Other game systems have it. I know I downloaded several in trying to figure out how we wanted to do ours for the upcoming tournament. But the Middle Earth strategy battle game from Games Workshop, they have a tournament packet. They have a whole book actually in Games Workshop form that you can purchase for real money. There's also, Privateer Press has one for their game systems. Saga has a tournament system set up where you download it as a PDF or print it out or however you'd like to do it. And they're going to give you a selection of the scenarios that you might see. But the idea is players shouldn't be showing up to the tournament blind. Obviously, they need to know how many points to bring. If you're running a tournament, Blood and Plunder is possibly getting to the point where we're going to be running tournaments that are restricted by era. If you're restricting it by era, the players need to know that ahead of time. You don't want someone showing up and being like, I brought a 250-point list. And you're like, sorry, man, we're doing 100-point land games today. So you need to give them that information and let them know what they're expected to bring, what they're expected to have with them when they show up. You can put in the packet who your judges are going to be, if it's people within the community, so that they know, so that the players understand, yes, this is a fair person who's doing this. And it's also an opportunity to put in the scenarios and a chance, if you want to run scenarios that are maybe not in the book, or you want to modify scenarios that are in the core rules so that they're a little bit more fair or a little bit more interesting, you can do that. But that packet is really, start here. This is what you need to bring. This is what you're going to do. You know all of this before you sign up. We're dealing with the pandemic right now. This packet is where you tell people or reiterate to people if you're requiring masks or if you want to go that far, vaccine cards. And that's something that can also be imposed by the store that you need to work out with them and make sure it gets into that packet.
All right, so I'm going to slowly put on my teacher hat here, because so as a teacher who runs multiple clubs that have multiple events throughout the year, I've learned a lot about what successful promotion looks like. And I think one of the many weaknesses that we all have is that we have too much information. There are too many things that we get notifications on, too many social media sites to keep track of. Our calendars can get really full really quickly if we're not actually paying attention. And because of that, I think you're always competing for people's attention. So assume that people are busy, assume that people have plans, which means that you want to plan, more than just a week or two out. If it's a local tournament, which is a couple of people, then a month might do. But if you're trying to get a larger group together, like the one that we're going to try to get together, then we're going to give you guys 2 months notice. So when we post all the stuff, the packet, the data, we're also promoting it here on the site. We're going to have another month of a podcast to release. So we'll kind of give regular updates on who's signed up. We'll keep posting progress on the terrain that we're making for the tournament. As we get notification on prize support, we're going to notify on that, because you want to kind of keep it primed in people's minds when the date is, what's going to be happening, the fact that this is well supported, and just kind of keep reminding them of that. And like Glenn and Tyler both said, you can't be happy just kind of promoting it on one site. You want to try to find a couple of different ways to post about it. So in our particular case, we're talking about it now on the podcast, or we're about to. We're posting it on Facebook. We are also going to see if the Firelock guys can post anything up on their site, possibly. And we're going to try to spread the word as much as we can, just word of mouth in the area, because we know that
Well,
Glenn has a good community down there.
we'll
And
also
Glenn
have the
sends out
local
emails too,
store.
right? And
Hmm?
forums, yeah.
Yep, forums. The local store will be putting up physical print signs in their store advertising this.
And here on Discord.
Yeah, Tyler, you've got that right, because I'm
I'm in the Discord all the time. People are probably sick of
I'm
me.
high enough in the millennial ranks that I don't understand or use Discord.
it's
I only
it's like
understand it
Facebook
'cause I have
Messenger with a
kids
lot more
occasionally.
people.
Yeah, that's a good way
Yeah,
to describe it.
I just use it to talk to people. Weirdly, I also use cell phones to talk to people, which I know is really out of style nowadays, but
You're so old.
I know. Another thing to touch on is with what Tom was saying about people being busy and there being a ton of notifications, you kind of have to spam stuff as well. With promotion, you'll notice, or some of you on the Facebook pages might have been paying attention and seeing I asked a question about it last month just to see if there was interest. Now we've planned it, or we are planning it. You're hearing about it here. We're going to talk about it on Facebook. You're going to hear about it once or twice a month from us until it happens. And there's going to be like a 1 week and a midweek reminder right before it happens, and probably another one the day before. Like,
People forget.
people forget. You
A lot of stuff
hammer it
going on.
home. You have last minute people whose plans got canceled and they don't realize that there's something going on that they can suddenly make it to. That kind of stuff happens all the time too. Um, you know, you you have to plan it, and then you have to keep that communication going until it happens.
And then just jumping into the final piece of this is just scoring and running it the day of. So you want to try to keep things moving. So you want a clear schedule set up for the day. You want people to know when dice start rolling, when registration starts. You want to have a system either on paper or on some kind of a spreadsheet, digital or otherwise, to keep track of wins and losses and to keep track of kill points or any kind of tiebreakers that you want to use. This way you can do Swiss pairings if you're going to do that. So you have the top players play the top players, and you can kind of break it down to see who comes out on top. You want a way to record this, even though we're not submitting anything to some larger body, because that's not the kind of tournament scene we've got here for Firelock Games. But we want to make sure that we keep a record of who played and give out the prizes accordingly. So I also mentioned that it's very helpful to have somebody else running it. So like I'm very grateful that when we're running this tournament, there's 3 of us, because that means that you have a ringer, you have somebody who can just process stuff, you have a number of different people that can serve as like rules arbiters if there's some kind of a dispute. If you're doing things by yourself, you ain't playing. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
You might think you are, but there's too much stuff going on.
Especially if you're new to being a TO.
Correct.
Do not try it. And it really.
You're not assuming you do it solo.
Yeah, I know a guy who's been a TO for probably 20 years. Who in the Flames of War community. He plays in his own tournaments. I personally think that's a little wonky. I mean, he runs them just fine. I don't think you should be putting yourself into the tournament as the final arbiter of things.
I think just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because I
Yes.
think like when you split focus like that, it just kind of takes away from the experiences of the people there. And I feel like if you're committing to run something, your goal is to kind of create that experience for other people. And so like that's why when we were down there at Historicon, like we wanted to play, but all 3 of us were perfectly willing to just kind of switch off, tag team off, and kind of take turns being the rule lawyer, taking turns playing a game, but we kind of did one thing at a time. And having somebody else with you enables you to do that.
Yeah, but if you're in a small community, one dedicated TO should be sufficient to do everything. And if you need a ringer, it might just be easier to have a buy around for that TO to have that breathing space, especially, like I said, if you're not experienced at being a TO. Several of us have a lot of experience being TOs, or at least a medium amount of experience being TOs at this point. So like I'd be comfortable being a ringer while also TOing because I can keep track of a lot of stuff. But I also know that like I'm gonna get called away to go answer a question.
Yep.
Which is hard on your opponent if you're a ringer, because they're still competing to win, but their game is now being slowed up by the fact that you have to help others. So you really, it's really a good idea to have a dedicated TO and then a ringer if you have somebody to do it.
The other two things I'll add to that or expand on with that, the person who is doing all of the pairings and the data entry for that, they don't necessarily need to know the game system in order to do those things. If you have someone who's willing to volunteer, who's just like a good admin, or has run other tournaments but maybe doesn't know the game that you're doing, you can kind of just be like, hey, I'm going to give you the data and you're going to put it in and you're going to tell me who's in first and who's in second. So we pair them off, third and fourth and on down. And that leaves you freed up to answer rules questions.
There are also times when there are people at your club or at your game store that play different game systems that like need somebody to help TO or score keep for like, let's say the 40K tournament and you don't play 40K. And then they're willing to kind of switch off with you.
Yeah.
So like I've done that for friends where like they will come and help me run a tournament so I can play. And then I'll run one for them. And I'll just like be painting in the background, keeping the score records, checking in on people, timing things, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fun ways to kind of just get people in on it, get together as a community, and get some games in.
And the other thing that I was going to expand on, because Glenn was talking about the buy round or having a ringer and whether you should just have a buy round. If you want to participate in the tournament and you want to play and you're organizing it and you have the capability to do that, or you have someone who's volunteering to ring like we do usually at the like we did at Historicon, that is a buy round. You can just make that a buy round and just give the person who's playing the win. But I would rather get a game in against somebody than sit for a round. I used to go to a lot of Magic tournaments and it was like, oh man, I've got the buy. Like, I'm at the bottom just sitting here not doing anything for an hour. I guess I'm going to go get coffee. And I started just, if I had friends nearby or there were other people in the shop that were playing other stuff, I'd go over and just be like, you want to get a game in? Because I'm waiting for my turn. Like, people sign up, they want 3 games or 4 games, however many rounds you're going to do. Give them that. Don't sideline somebody if you can avoid it.
One piece of parting advice for budding tournament organizers is if people are coming from far away, don't pair them with each other on the first round. Okay, because like there might be nothing you can do about it afterwards because it's Swiss pairings, but like we know that we have 2 folks coming up from North Carolina, which is awesome. And they will not be playing each other in the first round. I can guarantee you that. So I can't guarantee you in the second round that, we don't have to have them fight each other to death. But first round, no. First round, you're good.
Even with Swiss pairings, as long as you got enough people, even second round, you should be able to avoid that. So like
I think we're gonna have a lot of people, so I don't think it's gonna be a problem at all.
The reasoning behind that is twofold. One, the good lighthearted version of it, you don't want someone to drive all the way up there with their buddy, having a great day, and then their friend immediately hamstrings them out of the gate in the tournament. And they're like, well, I lost the first round to a guy that I play all the time. Like, that's not fun. The other one is if you've got a bunch of people who play each other and they all know how each other play, and I can honestly attest to having done this with a friend of mine, we would, if we got paired against each other, have an agreement going in on who won that game. And
Yeah, there can be shenanigans.
shenanigans ensue. Yeah, we were doing this for like real small, basically no prize support Magic tournaments, but we would alternate because it's like, oh, I don't really want to get gypped out of my 3 packs because we fought each other to a draw or went to time. So I'll play you in this hand, and whoever wins, you win. don't let people do that if you catch them doing that. So don't pair them if they know each other.
Yeah, oh man.
I think we all have
Okay.
shenanigan stories.
Oh, it's not even shenanigans. This happened to me. I drove up to Eric's, which is like an hour. Max drove to Eric's, which is an hour. Ben drove to Eric's, which is like 30 minutes. And then we all carpooled out to Philadelphia, which is another 2 hours. Where we proceeded to all play each other across the 3 rounds. Because even though it was like a 16-person Flames tournament, somehow they just stuck all of us together.
You guys kind of look the same.
I'm not saying you need to be familiar with every single person that's coming to the tournament, but have an idea of who came together. Because that was a good point I didn't even think of. Like, try not to pair people who play each other all the time off together right off the bat.
They might have just confused you and Eric Milan because like you both have beards. You both kind of look like farmers that got lost. So I feel like they're just like, let's just have those farmers fight each other. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
I have no idea.
I was playing Amish Flames of War.
Amish Flames of War. All right, so we're at an hour.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So let's talk about our tournament. So I'm going to let Glenn take the lead because Glenn came up with the name and the theme, and he's done most of the legwork on this. So Glenn, tell us of the tournament.
Man, I got to give it away right off the top. I think the theme actually came from Tyler. But the name we're going with is Plunder Easter Island because we unwittingly scheduled this for Easter weekend. So April 16th, Critical Hit Games in Abingdon, Maryland. I think the store opens at 11, maybe 10. I really need to check that. Okay, right off the bat. See, this is poor planning on my part. I should have had this ready to go.
To be fair to us, we will have all this stuff posted by the time this episode goes out. That's the plan anyway. So
yeah.
But we know the location, we know the date. It's just a matter of the hour in which it occurs.
Exactly, and no matter what the hour is, I'm going to see if we can get in there early to set up a little bit. So we'll be there. Plunder Easter Island, great theme, because it's Easter weekend. Easter Island's a real place. I'm not saying you're going to see, what are they?
Moai. They're Moai statues.
The Moai statues. I can't promise you'll see one on every table, but you might.
I have 15 under production right now.
Now, the terrain itself will be a little, if anybody's familiar with the actual Easter Island, the terrain will be a little bit more, let's call it fantastical relative to what's actually on Easter Island.
Yeah, they deforested the heck out of that place.
Yeah, I think there's journals saying that like in the 16 or 1700s there were trees, but there aren't any now. So
yeah, they created, it was an ecological disaster. It's a fascinating story. Look it up on Wikipedia. It's actually very interesting.
So anyways.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, there will probably be villages and other things that don't actually exist on the island, but we're going to make really cool terrain to make sure that everybody has a blast fighting across Easter Island for Easter weekend. Critical Hit was able to give us, they have a good sized gaming area, and this is not even us breaking into their Magic section. We were told that we have 28 spaces available. I think we could push it a little bit if we had to, but 28 is very generous. If we can fill 28 spaces, I'll tell you this: this is the largest Blood and Plunder tournament that I have ever heard of.
On the East Coast, for sure. I'm not sure. We did pretty well. So, like, that's my ambition. That's a pretty cool goal. We already have a good chunk of people that we know are coming. So, We
Yeah, I've
will
got
start to post a list of confirmed people on our Facebook page and update it regularly. Signups will start next week, and just reach out to us with questions if you have them. And that's talesofthesale@gmail.com. The same place you'd send your trivia questions. You also send your requests to join the tournament. You can also message us on Facebook, and we will add you to the list as well. Just make sure you have an email address that we can get in touch with you at if something goes on.
Yep, and there will be an event for this created on Facebook as well. I know the store created an event, but that may have been created in a private forum that I can't share. So
These are LAN games, 150 points, 2 hours per round. I don't know if we mentioned that, but
I was getting there.
okay.
You keep jumping the gun, Tom.
Trying to get all this stuff in a short space of time so they don't need to
We've
surf
never done
around,
that.
you know.
All right.
Looking-
Yes, land games, 150 points. We're planning for 2-hour rounds. If we're there and everybody's doing much faster rounds, then we will adjust accordingly. But there will be 3 rounds. Like Tom said earlier, it'll be Swiss style. Essentially, everybody's paired up at the start, based on who has a straight up win or loss or draw. You get paired off. Strength of opponent may or may not be taken into account at that point. And then so on and so forth, where the winner should theoretically be a person who has 3 wins at the end of the day, usually with a tiebreaker by how many victory points they were able to score. Or, I'm sorry, not victory points.
This is all stuff we can
What
put
are
in the
we calling
packet.
Yeah,
Strike
it will
point.
be in the packet.
Yeah, this will all be in the packet because we're going to play.
There you go.
And I think we had discussed we will be pulling missions from both the base game book and the No Peace Beyond the Line book. We have other announcements about tournament packets later down the road, but right now we're using bog standard missions out of those books. Again, we will tell you what the missions are. We may not tell you what order they will be in,
But you'll know what you're going to get.
but you'll know what you're going to have to do at some point.
I will also say for the record that the lay and wait rule is not used for players whose names are, well, let's try to be secretive about this. N Vega? No, it's too obvious. Nigel V. So for that specific person, lay and wait is not allowed. For everybody else,
Yeah.
it totally is.
Also, if you show up with an army of just cavalry, we will fill an entire table full of trees.
You're darn right we will.
That was amazing at Historic.
That was awesome. That was so awesome. All right. Anything else on the tournament? Because we'll announce it more later. But
We will have loaners available. So if you really like to play, but you don't have a force yet because you're more of an oak and iron guy, like Dan Carlson, feel free to contact us, reserve a loaner ahead of time, and we will make sure you get hooked up so you can come play this awesome game.
and we got you covered with everything. Loner Army includes list, dice, measuring tape, models, ready to roll.
We'll have you taken care of.
Nice, neat little tray. Good to go. So just let us know in the email that you're going to be participating and you need a loaner, and it's a first come, first serve situation. So when we run out of them, and we'll let you know. But just reach out quick because we'd like to make sure we have them spoken for.
Yeah, we should be able to put up, I'd say, at least 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. None
All right.
of us play this regularly or anything.
Blood and pedantry trivia time. We got to get this under like an hour and 45. So when I cut it, it actually fits. All right. So the prize, a unit of capers. Okay. A blister. The question, which in retrospect was apparently too easy since many people got this correct.
This was how I wanted it. I wanted it
in 1628. The AP World teacher in me wants people to fail. I know that's cruel, but I feel like it warms my heart like the Grinch when I see kids get low scores on quizzes. So I know that's the opposite of like the lesson from the Grinch movie, but it's just who I am. All right.
Well,
so
I
the
think
prize is capers.
Tyler took care of that for the question this month. So
Yeah, sweet. That's a tough one. Okay. There's no way Brian Reed can get that one right. In 1628, this Dutch commander captured the last Spanish treasure fleet off the coast of Cuba. His plunder helped finance the Dutch army for 8 months. Who is the Dutch commander, and how many men did he lose in the raid where the Spanish ships were seized? The answer was Eat Hein, my favorite adorable fat specialty model. He lost 0 men in the battle. There were 13 correct answers, I believe.
Yeah, something along those lines.
And you said you have a D13. Do you want to do the honors?
No, I don't have one.
I just want to know
I
which one of you sadistic put them in as letters rather than numbers.
Thanks for making me count. Whatever.
Yeah. In case anyone was wondering, we do roll these live. We have no idea. And yeah, someone don't go number them now.
Okay, I'm rolling
I'm
the
gonna
die.
roll it.
Are you gonna roll it, or am I gonna roll it?
Roll it. It's all Tom. Blame Tom if you don't get your prize.
All right. And survey says the winner's number 4. Nick Oristian is the winner. So we're gonna reach out to Nick. Nick, you'll probably get an email from us before the podcast goes out. Unless you want to wait to surprise him. So right. I mean, we just email him after Tuesday, and then hey, by the way, did you listen to the podcast?
And for
You won the prize.
For all of the 3-year-olds playing at home, that is the letter D.
That's the letter D. Look, he fixed it. He fixed it on the fly. So let's give Glenn some credit. Glenn is far more organized than me, which as a teacher is embarrassing. Yeah, I feel like for somebody who gave his teachers so much guff, you actually would have made a pretty good one, Glenn. But
let's not tell any of my teachers that.
I won't. Yeah, well, they're not listening here. I don't think they are. It'd be hilarious if they were. We can tell stories about them later. All right, so congratulations to Nick Aristian. You've got yourself a blister of capers. Pete Hein would be proud. Tyler, go ahead and give the rules for the trivia question and let them know the prize.
Rules. If you think you know the right answer, email talesofthesale@gmail.com. TALES of the sale, SAIL. Or the end of, who typed that up? Before the next time we record, which will be the beginning of March, in order to be eligible for a prize. You have about a month, 28 days, or take, however long this takes to get published. We will let you know when we're planning to record so that you have one last chance to get them in. But email us, talesofthesale@gmail.com. The prize this time is for you Oak and Iron type people. We have the Blackbeard boxed set. So that's Queen Anne's Revenge and the Revenge and the card for Steed Bonnet. It's, Firelock sells it. It's a kit. We have that.
Even if you already have
it. Yeah.
It's an awesome variant on the sloop.
It is cool. Yes. It is cool, yeah.
And who wants to ask the question?
I can read it if you want.
It's your question.
Oh, it is, isn't it? This is okay. This is hard. All right, Brian Reed. I keep mentioning Brian Reed's name because Brian Reed consistently outsmarts me, and I'm just bitter about it. So, all right, so here we go, Brian. Let's see how fast you can answer this because you've bested us on almost every question. When Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard, blockaded Charleston in 1718, he held several prominent citizens for ransom. While the demands were eventually met, the items in question were late in arriving, almost resulting in the deaths of the hostages. This is a 2-part question. Number 1, what did he demand as payment for the release of the hostages? And 2, why were they late in returning? Okay. So, one more time. Edward Teach, Blackbeard, blockades Charleston in 1718, holds several prominent citizens for ransom. The demands are met, but the items in question were late in arriving, almost resulting in the deaths of the hostages. Question 1, what did he demand as payment for the release of the hostages? And 2, why were they late in returning with the payment? So email your answers. You need to get both right to get it right. And if you are the person we roll the die for next time, you get yourself a box set. Upcoming events.
Nights.
I'm going to do it for the 25th because I want some time to advertise it. But I'm going to try to do on the paint night, I'm going to basically do a live demo of some terrain building. So if people are curious to kind of see me live on Discord trying to put together some different hills and some scatter terrain and to see kind of the techniques and materials I use, I will basically be walking through that between 8 and 9 o'clock. And then we'll just do regular painting after that. So anybody who wants to see it on the 25th, I will be running a small terrain demo on how to build small pieces of scatter terrain.
Slight footnote on that. I know we said Discord. We might have to set that one up as a Google Meets just because it's a little bit more friendly for
the cameras.
videoing.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure. Again, this comes into the whole I'm a millennial that doesn't regularly use Discord.
Yeah, if we change the platform, we will definitely put a link in the post. And whenever we share that out, we will also, since we are advertising for this one, we will not post it the day of. We will have it out in advance. If it's on Google Meets, it'll just be important for you guys to catch that so that you're not just going to the Discord server and wondering where everybody is, like I did last paint night. And the only other event that I want to touch on is Adepticon. We're still doing the Iron Man. Registration is still up. It is running from March 23rd, 27th in the general vicinity of Chicago. Pretty sure Chicago. I don't know. I'm buying plane tickets. I'm going to go to a city. Please see me there, assuming I'm at the right one.
And a reminder to anybody who's trying to advertise events, we are happy to advertise for you for free. So we'll continue to post stuff on some of the main Facebook pages asking for any TOs to send us information. Let us know when, where, and how, and we will make an effort to help you get people there.
Yeah, and same thing with Firelock. Generally, if you reach out to them and say, hey, we're having a tournament in this area, they will also post it.
Mm-hmm.
They are happy to have people go play their game.
And they might have some prize support for you, too. They're very generous.
True.
But you won't know until you ask.
Exactly.
All right, so Glenn, I think that's it, right?
Yep. Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming and listening to us blather on for far too long. This was supposed to be a short episode, believe it or not. But we can't do it without you, the listeners. So thank you. And we look forward to talking to you again next month. And we'll see you at the paint nights in between. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.